Let's start talking about space and what you've been doing there. Obviously, you've had some success landing the rocket.
Probably, and the most significant thing is being able to land an orbit-class rocket. If you spin a marble or a coin on a coin funnel, when it's far out, it sort of spins slowly, and then as it gets closer, it spins faster and faster. And if you were to start at the bottom of the coin funnel and you wanted to exit, you'd spin it horizontally, and it would spin out, and that's really how you get to orbit. Yeah, so the gravity well is like a funnel.
Why you want to land on a ship in the ocean?
Because in order to get to orbit, all that matters is your horizontal velocity. Your altitude doesn't really matter. In fact, the force of gravity at say the sort of nominal boundary of space, 100 kilometers, is almost exactly the same as it is on the surface of the Earth. So like if it's a few percent lower than the surface of the Earth. So in order to go up and stay up, the only thing that matters is how fast are you going horizontal to the Earth's surface. So you have that outward radial acceleration, or think of it like maybe like tetherball or something like that. It's really that outward acceleration is the thing that matters. And so when the rocket is going to orbit, the only reason it's going up is to get out of the thick part of the atmosphere. Because at high velocity, the atmosphere is thick as molasses. And so it goes up very briefly, but if you look at a long exposure of the rocket's trajectory, you'll see it goes up, but immediately curves over and starts going horizontal. And so at the point at which the point at which the stages separate, there's two stages. The primary boost stage, which is the most expensive part of the rocket, the point at which that staging occurs can be as high as Mach 10. But it's going away from the launch site at 10 times the speed of sound. So in order to get back to the launch site, you would have to have enough fuel and oxygen to reverse out that velocity and boost back all the way to the launch site. And you just don't have, the physics of it don't really allow you to have that much. It's not about saving money on fuel or anything, it's just physically impossible. Because another sort of thing about if you're in space is that there's nothing to react against. So like whereas an aircraft can circle very easily because it's reacting against air, in vacuum there's nothing to react against. So the only way to go back the other direction is to apply just as much energy as it took you to go. If you want to go backwards, you have to apply just as much energy as it took you to go forwards. In fact, well, twice as much, really, because you've got to zero it out, and then you've got to...
So you've got to land elsewhere.
Yeah, so bottom line is this thing is zinging out to sea at 10 times faster than a bullet.
At that point, it may well be over the ocean, because the ocean covers most of the...
Oh, it's actually, at the point of separation, it's not that far away. It's maybe 100 kilometers away from the launch site, but it is going like hell in the opposite, away from the launch site. So the only way to really land it is to have it continue on that arc, that ballistic arc, and then land far out to sea on a ship that's pre-positioned to a particular latitude and longitude, very, very precise, to within about a meter. And then the rocket will then go from vacuum through rarefied air at hypersonic velocity. So when it's in vacuum, it has to, obviously you can't use aerosurfaces, you have to use nitrogen jets to control the the attitude and position. And then as it starts to encounter the air, we use grid fins, because grid fins look like sort of like a waffle. They work quite well across a wide regime, from both very high velocity hypersonics through supersonic, transonic, and subsonic. So it's hard to have aero surfaces that work well across that entire regime. And then, so once the aero forces become high, it uses the four grid fins to sort of control its attitude.
To land itself.
Yeah, it's controlling it's controlling pitch, yaw, and roll with the grid fins. And then those grid fins will then position it to where it's fairly close to the ship, and then it will light, in this case, 3 of the 9 engines to arrest the velocity, and then drop to 1 engine for precision right before landing.
Right. Why is that important? Why has this moment been important for you?
Well, so in order to reuse the boost stage, which is about 70% of the cost of the rocket. So
Which cost is that? How much is that?
well, I mean, it's sort of on the order of $30 to $35 million.
We've been going to space for what, 50 years or something like that.
Yeah.
Nobody, until you started doing this, and Jeff Bezos' company has done it, the government never
They're
sort
like
of saved the
different things,
rockets.
but yeah.
They never saved the pallet of cash. Why not? And the Russians didn't either. I mean, what was the deal there?
Yeah, I mean, there was some attempt made to do that with the space shuttle, but there was no return. It's the first time that a rocket boost has returned to launch site
Right.
From an orbital mission, and certainly the first time that there's been a landing on a ship out
But
to
the
sea.
regular rockets that went up that weren't designed like planes never tried to do this.
Right. The plane thing is not a good idea in my view. The plane, and the reason I think is, like, intuitively it seems like a plane should work, but actually if you consider that really every mode of transport has a design that is appropriate to its medium. And if you're in space, wings are not very useful because there's no air. And then if you want to go somewhere other than Earth, there's also no runways.
Uh-huh.
So these are important considerations. So that's why when they went to the moon, they used propulsive landing.
Right. But what I'm saying was when they built the space shuttle, it sort of was looked like a kind of bulbous
I think that appealed
plane.
to Congress. Yeah.
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 They went, cool, cool.
Yeah. It looked like an airplane.
Can you explain
Okay.
Jeff Bezos?
Good one.
Jeff Bezos was here last night, and I asked him, what's the difference between what you're doing and what Elon Musk is doing? And he said, well, I think we have, I think he used the word like-minded in the general sense of it, and then he went on to explain some differences. And then he talked about, and correct me if I'm misquoting him, but I think he was saying, this is all about laying the foundations of being able to do greater things by getting the basic infrastructure of being able to reuse these rockets down right. Is that correct? Do you have a similar starting point from him and your thinking process?
I think there's certainly some similarities of opinion. I think both Jeff and I believe that it's important for the future to be a spacefaring civilization and out there, ultimately be out there among the stars. And I think.
Why do you seem so scared? I know things no one knows. We're going to die.
I think that's the exciting, inspiring future that I think certainly people in this room want. I mean, I think when I say multi-planet species, like that's really what we want to be. It's not like still being a single planet species, but moving planets. It's it's really being a multi-planet species and having civilization and life as we know it extend beyond Earth to the rest of the solar system and ultimately to other star systems. I think that's the thing. That's the future that's exciting and inspiring, and I think that's what, I think, you need things like that to make to be glad to wake up in the morning. Like life can't be just about solving problems. Like there have to be things that are inspiring and exciting that make you glad to be alive.
So what, in the immediate time frame, what is your goal for SpaceX now that you've done this, which is a huge accomplishment? What is the plan for you in the immediate time and then the longer range?
Sure. So we plan to refly one of the landed rocket boosters, hopefully in about 2 or 3 months, something like that. And then so that'll be an important milestone. So far, the stages are looking like quite good, even though they come through quite. It's a really difficult re-entry situation, but they're looking like they're in good shape. And we now have 4 of them. So we want to start reflying them, towards the end of summer, and then hopefully. By the end of this year, we'll be launching Falcon Heavy, which will be the most powerful rocket in the world by more than a factor of 2. Mm-hmm. So Falcon Heavy will be on the order of 5 million pounds of thrust on liftoff, which is about 2/3 the size of a Saturn V.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So
that's the rocket that took the astronauts to the moon.
Right. Exactly.
So,
in fact, we're launching from the same pad, from the Apollo 11 pad.
Wow.
The launches will take place, every 2 to 4 weeks. There's quite a high launch cadence.
That's a much faster cadence than NASA had, right?
Yeah, it'll be more launches than anything else in the world. So more than Russia, more than Europe, more than China by next year, certainly.
And largely to deliver customers' satellites.
Yeah, there's a lot of broadcast and communication satellites that are going to geosynchronous orbit, mm-hmm. And then we'll also be launching the new Iridium constellation. Mm-hmm. So that Iridium's got a next generation mm-hmm. Constellation of satellites. I think 60 or 70 satellites, quite decent sized satellites. That'll be, I think, many orders of magnitude improvement over the current Iridium system. So we'll be able to have global broadband. So that'll be a whole bunch of launches. And and then next year we'll be flying Dragon version 2, which is the one that's capable of taking up to 7 astronauts to the space station. Mm-hmm. In fact, Dragon 2 really it's a propulsive lander as well, and it'll be it's intended to carry astronauts to the space station, but it's also capable of being a general science delivery platform to anywhere in the solar system. So
where are you going with it?
We're going to send one to Mars in 2018.
Now, let's talk about
wait. 2018, that's for sure.
Yeah, a couple of years.
Couple of years.
Okay.
Now, will you be on that flight?
No.
You have talked about this. You said you want to die on Mars, just not on landing, right? Is that correct?
Well, I mean, I think if you're going to choose a place to die, then Mars is probably, not a bad choice.
All right.
But you're not ready.
It's not some sort of Martian death wish or something. But yeah, I mean, if you're going to be born on Earth, die on Mars.
So
that's
sending
pretty good.
this up to Mars 2018, all right. Sending this up to Mars 2018, when will someone like you get there from your plans?
Sure. So the 2018 mission would be our Dragon version 2.
Right.
And I think if things go according to plan, we should be able to launch people probably in 2024 with arrival in 2025.